and whether we're willing to say, candor of an American officer at Ben Tre in Vietnam, that it became necessary to destroy this town in order to save it. Now, he wasn't saying that just for himself. He was saying it also for you. And he was saying it for the American people. And what is our responsibility? And therefore, what should be our policy in dealing with problems like that? These are moral problems, they're security problems, they're problems for all of you, for all of us as United States citizens. You must help in all of these complex questions because you will bear the burdens of errors or misjudgment. President Kennedy once said, and I think very true, that you, the younger generation, you have the least ties to the past and the greatest stake in the future. So what happens and the decisions that we make are going to have the greatest stake on your lives, the greatest effect on your lives. We might be the government officials that carry out policy, or we might be the ones that implement it, or we might be the ones that begin it or stimulate it. But in the last analysis, the people that this policy is going to have the greatest effect on is going to be all of you. The question of what kind of lives we're going to lead, the quality of life that's going to exist in the United States, whether there are going to be tremendous divisions between blacks and whites, between various age groups on our foreign policy, the quality of life, that's going to be really or even whether there's going to be life itself. That's going to be, these are the questions that are being decided, and these, it seems to me, have the greatest effect on you more than any other generation. We have made mistakes in the past. As I've said before, I was involved in mistakes. There were mistakes made during the administration of President Kennedy, undoubtedly mistakes that were made regarding Vietnam, of which I was intimately involved. But what I hope is that we look to the past. We look to the past and we see where we've erred and where we've done right, and we benefit by the mistakes that we have made. And that's what I think that we can do here in the United States of America. Are you all going to stand up because you're leaving, or is it just... Why don't you just move forward and then there'll be more room, wouldn't there? Just move forward. Now why don't you just... Why don't you sit down there? Just sit down if you would, could you? Just sit down over there. Just if you'd sit down over there. Could you sit down, please? Are you all right? Listen, would you get down so that those people back there, so I can see them? Seriously, would you sit down, please? Would you just sit down there, please? I'm not waving. Back there. Just in fairness. What will, in fact, be our policy after Vietnam? What should it be? These are the hardest of issues, and there are no easy answers really to any of them. But if we are to make the right choice, it seems to me that we must confront these issues openly and honestly. I think the Democratic Party has accomplished a great deal over the period of the last 7 years. I think that we've done a great deal here in the United States, and I think that we've done much which we can be proud in our relationship with other countries. I think we've made mistakes, but it seems to me that the Democratic Party that's going to get elected, and the way I run is that we have to look, not just talk about what we've done in the past, not just talk about what we've accomplished in the past, but people want to know what we're going to do in the future, what we think the situation is at the moment, and what we intend to do to bring peace around the world and bring prosperity and happiness and to our own people here at home. It's on that basis that I run for President of the United States, and on that basis that I ask for your support. It seems to me that particularly college students, but all of us in the United States, and especially in such a critical year as 1968, which is going to determine the future and the destiny of so many people, not only in the United States, but all over the globe. And this is the year in which people can decide. Not 1969 or 1970, it's the year 1968, which is going to determine the direction that the United States is going to move, what kind of leadership we're going to have. It seems to me that we have to have the spirit that Plato reported, that all things are to be examined and brought into question, that there is no limit set to thought. And that's what I think, that's the spirit that we need on a university campus, and that's the spirit really that we need in this election year of 1968, to examine everything, not take anything for granted, to examine everything and see where we are, as Abraham Lincoln said in 1858, where we are. Only when we know where we are will we know where we can go and how we can get there. We must look carefully and honestly at our policies abroad. We must examine how we can help the millions of our fellow citizens who lead lives of hopelessness and poverty. As Sophocles said, where day follows day, with death the only goal. What joy is there in day that follows day, with death the only goal? We must decide what moral obligations we have to the other peoples in the globe, peoples of Latin America, and some of the villages that I visited, and I'm sure that some of you have visited, where 7 out of 10 children die before their first birthday, that the average person who dies in Latin America is under the age of 4, that the starvation and the difficulty and the hopelessness that face those people. About the men in Asia, who have less to eat now than they did at the start of the decade. About those in Africa, whose every living moment is filled with disease. For those who know only suffering and deprivation, where we lead relative lives of comfort and of happiness. Where each year, at some time that all of this is going on all over the globe, each year we in the United States spend $3 billion on pets, almost $2 billion on dogs, and yet all of the starvation and all of the suffering takes place all over the rest of the globe. These men and women and children that we hear about and which I'm talking about now, they're not statistics. They are human beings that I have seen and I think that many of you have seen, each with a right to lead a life of dignity and purpose, just as much as you and I have. We happen to be fortunate enough to be born in the United States of America. We happen to be fortunate enough to be able to attend a high school and then go on to a university. But what did we do in our lives that gives us that right, instead of being born in Northeast Brazil and not even living to your first birthday? Or being born in East Africa or Tanzania, and where 97% of the people are illiterate. What did we ever do, or what did we ever contribute? And what can we ever say that we ever did? What really is our purpose in life? When it finally comes down to it, that we could be born with all of these advantages that we enjoy here in the United States, and they, 70-80% of the rest of the world, suffer as much as they do. And when you finally decide that, then you must also decide what we can do to make up for all of the advantages that we have. Don't we have a major responsibility to those that do not have those advantages? Don't we have a major responsibility, not the government of the United States, but we as individuals have a major responsibility and obligation